Welcome to Afros and Audio's Black History Month interview series. My name is Talib Jasir, founder and CEO of the Afros and Audio Podcast Festival and the Vanguard Podcast Network. I'm excited to spotlight 29 outstanding indie podcast creators and professionals who answered the call to be a part of this series. My guest today is Latrice Sampson Richards. Welcome and thank you for being here today. How are you?
I'm doing well, Talib. It's been a long time since we recorded together. So this is kind of like a return home, I guess, in a lot of
Yeah.
ways.
Yeah, it has been a long time. I was thinking about that as I was getting prepared for this. Like, I'm going to have to act like I don't know nothing about her, but it's cool. I really am glad to be reunited and it feels so good.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's jump in. So, with your remarkable journey from a dual licensed mental health counselor to an award winning podcast producer and host, how do you integrate your background in mental health into your podcasting projects to create content that is both healing and entertaining?
I struggled with that for a while because my brand originally was like just mental health. Like I was the mental health girl. And this was before podcasting came into my life and even a little bit after. And so I really struggled to try to figure out what does it look like for me to transition into podcasting. And when I really thought about it, I realized that there's a lot of transferable skills. There's a lot of things and tech skills and techniques that I have as a clinician that really lend themselves to my creativity. And so I think really just kind of leaning into those skills, things like how to ask questions. I mean, I'm a skilled question asker. I'm a therapist. And not only asking the question, but even in the follow-up questions and like moving the conversation, I've been trained on how to move a conversation and how to not only hear what's being said, but what is also not being said, and being able to pick up on those things, which ultimately in the podcasting and the storytelling world makes for a more interesting and meaningful story when you can capture those little things and help to maneuver those things up to the top. And so it was important to me that I held on to mental health in some way because it is my life's work. And until podcasting, it was the number one thing in my world. And I think I've done a pretty good job of doing that. I just really had to kind of reshape or reframe how I looked at it and what it could be in the industry of podcasting.
Yeah, that's a great point. It is one of those things where, as you move into creativity, especially coming from a serious profession, right, where your mind is always on that business and especially in mental health, which I also work in as well, understanding how to ask forwarding questions, open ended questions. So it's one of those things where I love that you said that because for a lot of times when we enter these creative spaces, it feels disjointed. Like, okay,
Yeah.
that's over here, this is over here, it's compartmentalized. And the day that it clicks and it's like, oh, I get to use this here as well. And it actually makes for a better experience for not just myself, but for the person that I'm working with. That's exceptional.
It is. And two things kind of popped up to mind while you were saying that. So one is the part of the creativity that I've been most excited about is finding new ways to incorporate that mental health. I mean, like I'm a therapist. Of course, my first podcast was a mental health podcast. I mean, like, is there anything else? Most podcasters start with what they know, right? And so my first podcast, Unicorns Talk, was a straight up mental health podcast. But my second podcast was Stories All Around Us with Vanguard. And that was still I was able to infuse mental health and concepts and ideas of mental health and hopefully facilitate healing for a lot of folks on the listening end of that. But it wasn't blatantly mental health. So I was able to, through my creativity, find another way to get that in there, to get that point across. And so that has been one of the most interesting journeys for me, even like working on a project like I do the live shows for Stitch Please podcast with Lisa Wolfork. And that's a podcast about sewing, right? Which you wouldn't think lends itself to the world or the era of mental health. But when you think about the mission of Black Women Stitch, and that mission is to create a safe place for Black women, girls, and femmes in the sewing landscape, then that mental health aspect starts to come out more. This is about more than just getting together and learning how to stitch. This is about building community. This is about healing from the past traumas and using this craft as a healing mechanism. So I've really enjoyed like finding through my creativity ways that I can incorporate some aspect of like meaningful connection, meaningful discussion that hopefully helps people to feel seen and heard. But then the other thing that I thought about was I always say podcasting is healing. I think it's a healing art for not just the listener, but for the podcaster as well, because that journey and that process of figuring out my creativity and like how far can I stretch my creativity. I want to try all the genres. I don't want to just be a solo podcaster or just be a narrative podcaster. Like I want to see what I can do. And that in and of itself is healing because I come up against a lot of insecurities within myself and just having to find a way to push past those. And I think that determination gets translated into the work, and the audience hears it and feels it as well. And hopefully they feel motivated to kind of tackle their own obstacles as well. So,
Absolutely. And you've done that, right? And you are continuing to do that. That's the beautiful thing about people who are in the space of mental wellness is that we understand that I'm not healed, I'm healing. I'm not
yes,
there, I'm getting there, right? I'm
yes,
constantly in this process of becoming and improving. And just knowing you myself inside of this industry and where we started and where we are, there has been a lot of growth. And because of that, it's becomes possibility for others, right? To see that and to be able to say, wow, look at where they started and look at where they are now. And it's super important. And speaking of that progression, I want to talk about your company, Pod
yeah,
Melanin. All
yeah,
right.
yeah.
So you're playing a significant role in connecting podcasters and brands with their audience. Can you share how you approach creating immersive live events and shows that resonate deeply with audiences?
Yes. So this has been, I think, one of the biggest little surprises that I didn't know like I would enjoy, but I really enjoy producing live podcasting events because I don't know, I already love podcasting, but it's just something about being in the room with other podcasters. It is like my favorite thing is why I never miss an Afros Audio and why I always have FOMO whenever Black Podcasters Association be posting stuff in New York that I can't go to because I don't live in New York. Like it's a thing. But I enjoy being in community with people. I enjoy being in a space of sharing of ideas and just kind of like emotional swapping, but in a positive way, not like a negative way. So I already enjoy those kinds of scenarios. And I just kind of melded the two together. And like the journey to Pod Melanin, listen, it was quite a lengthy journey. I went through like 4 different name changes. I was like, I'm just going to stop posting this shit on the internet because the name kept having to change. Like I'll choose a name and I'm like, this is the name and I love it. And then something happened and then I'm like, oh, wait, that is already trademarked. Like I can't use that name, or I choose another name and then I saw somebody won an award and the name of their company was the exact name of the company that I had selected. And I was like, damn, can't do that. So I just was thinking and I came to Pod Melanin. And I feel like it really does encapsulate just everything that I am in this podcasting space. There's a very blatant theme across my work in the podcasting space, and that is blackity black. You know what I'm saying? Everything I do is black. I mean, I'm a black woman. I don't know how to do nothing but be myself. But I love this community. I love this community very deeply. And sometimes even when the community hurts my feelings, I'll just be like, but bitch, I love you though. So like, why you gotta do me that? You know what I'm saying? Like I love this community so much. And so I wanted to create an opportunity for me to be able to consistently support the community in whatever way the community needs to be supported. And so Pod Melanin serves to provide that support to podcasters who are interested in creating live shows and events, whatever that might look like. And I think that, again, that's the most interesting part for me is that creativity aspect of it, because your live show don't have to look like what somebody else's live show looks like. Like with Lisa, our live shows for the Stitch Please podcast, they incorporate all kind of extra stuff. So she usually does like a make and take or something where there's an actual physical activity that happens at the live show in between the recordings. I mean, that's something that only the people who are present get to experience, right? That doesn't go into the recording. And then you have the audience aspect, and how do we bring the audience in a way that makes sense for who her audience is. And so I really enjoy like that, thinking outside of the box in ways that we can really kind of set the stage for capturing audio that conveys the energy that is in that space, while also putting together an experience that gives an incentive for people to want to attend live, right? Because, you have the live show and the people who are there, and then you take the recording and you put it out for the podcast. And so there's always some people that's going to be like, well, I'll just wait until it drops in the feed. And so you want to create opportunities for people who are there to say, I'm so glad I came to this event. This was pretty cool. And then to be able to reminisce on that when they listening back and they like, oh, that was when such and such did this. And they can see it in their minds. And it's like a little gift. It kind of builds the relationship that you have with your audience because they remember those moments fondly. I really enjoy creating those opportunities for connection, but it's still got to be fun and entertaining and all the things. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And we know that there's space for that, right? More and more space for that. It becomes the 3D aspect of the podcast, the audio, knowing and understanding that this audio, this podcast is the cornerstone, right? It is
Yeah.
the beginning of what can be created from that, the repurposing and or the live events and or the video. And so I remember my first steps towards Afros and Audio before there was ever the conference in 2019 was my first live show, Shannon Kaysen, telling stories, right? My second live show was Tea with Queen and Jay in New York, and just really having these moments of, oh, this is also what a podcast can look and feel like and be,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And so it is so important to understand. It also supports the opportunity to not get bored with this craft, right? To not just stay behind the mic in a room recording. There is opportunity for that extension and expansion. And so I really love this idea of normalizing, really, live shows for podcast creatives and audio professionals to step from behind the mic and get to the people, because that's it. A podcast can't go without the people, right? That are
It
listening to
can't.
you.
Podcasting had a little bit of a boom during the pandemic. So you have a lot of folks who came into the industry at a time when it was not an option to go out and see and meet the audience and things like that. So now we're in a place where people are firmly back outside and they're looking for things to do, and they want to start interacting in a different way. People are in healing mode. People are ready for healing. People are ready for connection. We spent a lot of time in isolation, forced isolation. And I know for myself, as much of like a social butterfly as I ain't gonna lie, I've been having to like really push myself to leave my house because my sofa is just feeling like the place where I really want to spend my time. You know what I'm saying? And so like I've been really having to like push myself to get out of the house, to go out and be social and to interact with people. And that was just never a struggle that I lived with before. And I know that it's a direct result of I spent 2.5 years sitting on my ass because I was not playing with this COVID thing. Like them people said, don't go nowhere. I wasn't going nowhere. I was not leaving the house. And even after people started leaving the house again, I was like, I don't know. The people ain't said leave the house yet. You know what I'm saying? Y'all leaving the house, but they said you can leave the house, but we don't recommend it. So I'm going to stay home. So even for myself, it's been difficult trying to get out. And so creating these events and opportunities where people can get together and be in community with people who have like interests or are like minded in some way, which we both know is really the best way to kind of discover yourself and to indulge in yourself, is to do things that you enjoy, to pursue interests that you have. And you'll find people in that space who have those same interests, and that becomes a foundation for a meaningful relationship or a meaningful connection. And so I just love creating these kind of spaces to just help myself get out the house and heal a little bit more, but also just to help people to get out and kind of start to shake off a little bit of that quarantine, because people, I think we're ready to start connecting again. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. So you've collaborated with renowned brands and organizations like Afros Audio, Black Podcast Association, and recently Black Podcast Awards in the last 2 years, I would say,
Mm-hmm.
and many more. How do these collaborations enhance the podcasting experience for both creators and listeners?
So anytime I'm looking at working with a brand, the number one criteria that I utilize is whether or not there's alignment with my personal mission and the mission of my organization is. So we support Black podcasters. We support the Black podcasting community, and we do that unapologetically. And so for me, working with any brand first requires that brand has shown that they are in support of the Black podcasting community, and not just in a superficial way, but in a way that is meaningful, right? And so working with organizations like Afros and Audio, Black Podcasters Association, Black Pod Awards, I mean, I think it's kind of obvious that commitment is there and that there is alignment. And really, those three organizations really helped me to kind of lay the foundation for feeling like I can do this unapologetically, like this is something that I can do, that we have within this community enough resources, enough support, enough talent that I can build something with and within this community that is mutually beneficial. And because I did it with Afros and Audio as a part of the team, I've done it as a part of the team for Black Podcasting Awards. I've seen it firsthand as a member of the Black Podcasters Association, and now doing a little bit of stuff with them as well. So it's like, I know that it can happen. It may not happen as quickly. It might not be like a skyrocket kind of thing, like I know a lot of people often are looking for, but it's something that I can be proud of. It's something that I can hold my head high and say, like, I did this. I was a part of this. And I'm watching people come in afterwards and just being like, good job. It's a great feeling. So I think that it's important to me, as people often look to me as, I don't like to use the word influencer because I don't see myself as an influencer, but I think that people do look to me to try to gain or ascertain, what direction they might want to go when it comes to certain things in the podcasting space. So I'm always very intentional about any recommendations that I make or any organization that I work with, because I would never want to steer somebody towards something that I don't believe in, or steer somebody towards something that doesn't believe in me or doesn't believe in our community, or that's trying to capitalize off of us in a way that feels grimy. And so I'm very intentional about what brands I choose to work with. And you can pretty much guarantee that if I'm working with them, I done asked around, I done asked them some direct questions. I've done what I can to try to make sure that this brand is not just trying to turn a quick buck, but that they are genuinely interested in supporting the Black podcasting community, because that's my interest. And so there has to be alignment there above anything else.
Yeah, word up. And us working together with Afros and Audio during our virtual season, and that was a season. And we kept going. We could have folded at the beginning of COVID, but we didn't, right?
Mhm.
And to continue to move this forward and to continue to see us as individuals, as communities continue to grow, it's everything. It's the testament to not only our own spirit, but the spirit of this community that is so valuable, that is so worthy. And so now with Black Podcasting Awards, that kind of is like the bow on the top, really recognizing and saying, we see you, we hear you, and not only do we see and we hear you, we're going to celebrate you.
Yeah.
So talk about that a little bit, your desire to get involved with Black Podcasting Awards, but also what you see for that as we continue to move forward powerfully in the Black podcasting space.
Working with the Black Podcasting Awards was really a dream or a goal manifested. We've had conversations in the past where I'm like, I'm going to host the Black Podcasting Awards. I don't know how, I don't know when, but I'm going to do that. And so then to be able to have the opportunity to do it twice is just mind boggling to me. And then also to have that second time be like live in Times Square, which was a massive personal bucket list item. Like I have goals for my business, but I have personal goals for myself and just things that I think are really fucking cool that I would really like to do. And so performing live in Times Square is one of those things. And so thanks to the Black Podcasting Awards, I've been able to check that off my list. But like working with the Black Podcasting Awards, it means a lot because that's our NAACP Image Awards, like in the podcasting space. Like, I mean, obviously everyone wants to be recognized for their work. I think anybody who says they don't care about the recognition at all, like they're lying. The reality is that you want to be recognized on some level. It may not be your number one priority, but it feels good to be recognized and to be validated in that way. But there is something about your people putting that stamp of approval on your work or on whatever it is that you have chosen to give to the world. It just kind of hits different. It hits different. It means a lot more. And so for the Black Podcasting Awards to trust me with the enormity of that. It really did mean a lot to me. I think that the Black Podcasting Awards is one of those things in our community that we get to celebrate together. Like everybody is happy for each other. Even when I do the after show, just getting to talk to these people and like, this is your first win. How was it? And they're just like crying or they're like, I can't even wrap my head around this. Like, because for a lot of us, we do it because we enjoy doing it. And we don't always consider that we could be award winning, but we can be award winning. Like we are producing high quality content and we don't have to wait for outside entities to tell us that. We can support and encourage each other. And I love being a part of that. The other thing I'll say very quickly is that I've also discovered a lot of new Black podcasts through the Black Podcasting Awards. Before I hosted, I actually served as a judge. For the first 2 years I served as a judge. You and I did so together, and through that I discovered podcasts literally all over the world that I never would have heard of before. And so Black Podcasting Awards also creates an opportunity for exposure for podcasts that may not readily get that exposure, and helps us to expand in that way as well, which we all know discoverability is the number one issue in the industry. And so they serve that role as well. So it's been a blessing. I'm not hosting this year, but I don't know a whole lot. But word on the street is they're going to have a very good host this year that I feel like it is an honor to me to be succeeded by this particular host. And so I think y'all going to enjoy it very much.
That's awesome, man. I want to shout out Demetrius for all his hard work year after year in making Black Podcasting Awards happen, as well as it's pre-submission right now.
Mhm.
And something that I guess we can say now is that this year we are going to collaborate, Afros Audio and Black Podcasting Award, on Legends Honors, because it is so important that we honor the folks who have been in this industry for a while. And as you know, we don't wait for nobody else. We're going to make
Right.
sure that we honor ourselves. And so this year at our after party, we're going to take time to have an award ceremony for some of our legends. And so that is really important. And it's something new that we're going to do, but I'm really excited to have the opportunity to create that space this year for the conference.
I'm very happy to hear that. I love this partnership and I love this collaboration between Afros and Audio and the Black Podcasting Awards. I don't never miss an Afros. So I'm gonna be there. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna be there. And I'm really excited. And of course, if y'all need anything, y'all just let me know. And I will make it my business to do what I can. But yeah, I'm
Absolutely.
very excited about that. I mean, I'm gonna have to get me some new dresses. What we dressing up? I
Talk
lives
like
for a look
let's
now. I
I
lives
know
for a
you do.
look.
I know you do. Talk about that
All right.
another time. But yeah, it is very important that we celebrate one another, just period. Like in
Yeah.
scene, on period. It's very important. And so it's been dope to see you grow in that space and to mark that off your bucket list. Hey, let's go.
Yeah. Let me add this. I recently attended the Podcast Hall of Fame Awards ceremony in Orlando a couple weeks ago. And one of the things that I was really taken by was that there were no Black honorees at all, like not even one. And that was something I was just, wow, like not one. We couldn't find out one. And listen, I recognize that they've had Black honorees in the past, but I think it just kind of was glaring to me that there were no Black honorees. And when I was in the room, I was one of 3 or 4 Black people in that room at all, which was also really interesting to me to kind of see that. And so I think, like you said, we don't have to wait for other people to recognize us. We can recognize ourselves. We can support ourselves. We can lift up ourselves. We have everything that we need right here in the community. I think it's important for us to support what exists in our community and to be a part of the things that exist and the people who are grinding every single day and having anxiety attacks about whether or not the things is going to get finished and stuff like that. Like, we need to be supporting the people and the organizations in our community that are actively supporting us. And so that's anywhere I go, I'm always singing the praises of Afros and Audio, Black Podcasters Association, and Black Podcasting Awards, because I've been behind the scenes for all 3 of those entities. And I know the amount of work that's going into making those things happen. And so I always encourage other podcasters to be as supportive as they can, not just emotional support, but give your financial support whenever necessary as well, because these people are pouring into these organizations financially, emotionally, spiritually, physically, and they need a little bit of respite, some respite.
Yes, and like most things, just to piggyback off of what you said and then move on to the next question, that was a catalyst. What you just mentioned, this Hall of Fame, that was a catalyst to say, you know what, time out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Time out and time's up. We get to do things that support us, but also recognizes that we've been here and we're going to stay here. And with that, there gets to be a bit of love and recognition for people who we want to remain in this space because they are so valuable to it. So, yeah, we're just going to continue to do our work. You already know. So,
Yes.
in your view, what are the key elements that make a podcast not just good, but great, especially in terms of engaging with the Black community and broader audiences?
I think authenticity, first and foremost, is the number one weapon of any podcast. No matter what your topic is, that authenticity always comes through. So don't be up there talking about some shit that you don't really feel like talking about, because the audience is going to feel it. So there has to be a certain level of transparency and authenticity on the part of not just the producer, but I think the host as well, right? Like, they have to be able to connect with the subject matter in some way. But outside of that, I will say it's the audio. It's the audio. I mean, it's a podcast. Audio is king in podcasting, or queen in podcasting. There is no way around it. And I would love to see us utilize some of the resources that are available to try to improve our audio as much as possible, no matter what level we're at, but especially if we are interested in building a career in this space, or like doing something that's a little bit has more longevity, I think, over time. If the audio is not right, it's going to be very hard to continue to have success in this space. The content is only going to take you but so far, and that's just the reality. So I think the audio has to be of primary concern, and I don't think that it takes hundreds and hundreds of dollars to improve your audio. There are free and damn near free options like Auphonic that you can utilize to help you improve your audio and just kind of give it that extra little bit of polish. And so I think that we need to be utilizing those resources. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And understanding that these are the skills and the skill building that a person can get from a Black Podcast Association, from attending Black People in
Yes.
Audio or any other conference or any other workshop. Black Podcast Association does a lot of workshops, and we have a lot of content on YouTube that supports this effort. And so there's levels to it. We understand that when people first get in, there are challenges. You don't know what you don't know. But as we say for anything, it's okay to not know for a minute, but it ain't okay to stay not knowing.
Yeah.
Right? So there's levels to it. We get it. But there's also this opportunity to improve. You can't say that no one is supporting or no one is listening or what have you, and you're not creating and increasing the value of the product that you're putting out. And so we want people to understand that, because we want you to win. Like,
Yeah.
everything Latrice just said is about wanting you to win in whatever you do. And so that's what we're here for. So your live show and event production have been highlighted as a service you'd like to promote. Can you share a memorable moment from one of those events? And you kind of did with Stitch Please podcast, but if there's anything else that you can think of in this moment, one of these events that exemplifies the impact you aim to create.
Well, I mean, I'll say Afros and Audio. I'm very proud of the work that I was able to put forth with Afros and Audio, and just being a part of the Afros and Audio community. I mean, like when I first joined Afros and Audio as a team member, like you said, COVID had hit, and you basically sent out an all call and you was like, anybody know how to do this? And at the time I was doing a lot of live streams and stuff, and I was like, I think I can help out here. Let me offer my services. And then we just kind of built this relationship, you and I, and that just kind of morphed itself into me becoming a more permanent member of the team. But the years that we spent producing the virtual conference, those were some of the most rewarding years that I've experienced in podcasting, not just because they helped me to solidify and understand the reality that, like, I can do this. Like, it doesn't have to just be a hobby. Like, I think I can actually do this as a career change, as something that I can support my family with. So that was a blessing. But even outside of that, that experience of creating community and the energy of community in a virtual space, that was amazing to me. Like, it was magnificent to be in that space that first virtual year, which was the second year, right, of the festival altogether. Just the chat box was just going bananas. And I was just like, what the fuck is happening right now? And then you have like this, people are in the sessions and talking with the presenter and cracking jokes. And then you got people over here connecting and people over there connecting. And every time we all came together and everybody was like, this is awesome. I'm having such a great time. This is amazing. And so to kind of be a part of the team that helped make that happen, it was a very rewarding experience because the process and the journey, as we both know, is stressful. And there are conversations about, I don't know if we're going to keep doing this shit because it gets tense, it gets difficult, it gets heavy. It gets very heavy at times. And so we pushed forward and we made that thing happen. And then to get that feedback instantly from the attendees, I think that is one of the most rewarding experiences that I've had in the podcasting space. And like I said, it was really one of those solidifying moments that, like, I think I want to do this for real, because that I just love the way that it made me feel. And I was very proud of what we were able to put forth. And so I just want to continue to see what I can do. I want to continue to see what my creativity can dream up and just work with as many folks as I can, or as many folks who would want to work with me.
Absolutely. We've definitely made some magic. And I think both of our intention for those 2 years was to allow people to feel like they've been somewhere and they were sitting right in front of the screen. And we did that. And that is the case with everything about Afros and Audio, is that it starts with that intention and really ensuring that no matter what it takes, as y'all have seen, right? No matter what it takes, we're going to make the experience what it needs to be so that we can leave our community refueled, ready to go, motivated, inspired, and just really wanting to keep this industry viable for us and to keep pushing forward. So I appreciate your time with us and the relationship that we built, but also the idea for me. You know me very well, and it's like one of those things where this is the space for you to launch, for you to figure it out and to progress and understand how powerful we actually are in all the ways, and then go for it. Like, just let's go. So I'm grateful for that feedback and for the fact that this is what it's been all about since day one, right? And yeah, let's just keep going. So again, those type of things, the work that you've done and what you've created, supported and has pushed you forward in ways that we probably didn't even see that day I put out that email, right? And the day that because it doesn't just take the email, it takes somebody willing to say, let's go. Let me see who I can become inside of this. So reflecting on that, right? You did an audio project, Black HIV in the South. How did we get here? What inspired this project, and what do you hope listeners take away from it?
So yes, Black HIV in the South, how did we get here? So within the Black podcasting community, there are certain organizations that have kind of risen in terms of being able to find some early success, right? And so there was, for a little while, a couple years ago, we were kind of the leadership of those organizations and entities were getting together, you remember, to just kind of say, listen, how can we support each other? Like, what is it that you need? You got this going on. How can we help? Hey, this is what I need. How can anybody help me out here? So we were at one of those meetings, and Anna Deshawn from The Cube and E3 Radio, Anna said, I need a producer. So, and I feel like she said it just like that. Like, I need a producer. And so I was at that time seriously thinking about how I would make this transition into professional podcaster and just kind of getting the itch to see what I was capable of as a producer, like wanting to try some new things. I had just done Stories All Around Us, and that was my first like narrative storytelling format podcast. And it was the biggest project that I had done up until that point. And so I was like very proud of that. Like, I did that shit. I wonder what else I can do. And so when Anna said that, I said, well, I'm interested in learning about what you got going on. So Anna and I met separately, and she sent me a couple of the one-page descriptions for 2 different shows that she was looking for a producer on. And one of them was Polyam Chats and the other one was Black HIV in the South. And I actually ended up doing both of them, even though one never really made it. But so that's how I kind of got into that project. It was Anna's project already, and she needed a producer for that project. And so I agreed to serve as the producer for that project. The interesting thing about Black HIV in the South, and I think why one of the reasons that it will forever be one of the most important projects that I've ever worked on, is because I worked on that project while healing from and like dealing with and planning my father's funeral, which was a very significant time in my life. And so it had a different meaning for me because it was my saving grace. Like that project kept me from losing my mind because I'm a daddy's girl and I was struggling. I was struggling. So it gave me a true north. Like it gave me something to focus on. It gave me something to distract myself from whatever was going on. It gave me something to hold on to while I was kind of embarking on a grief journey that I've never in my life experienced before. And so that project is just always going to have that special place for me in that sense. Outside of that, though, it also is very meaningful to me because of the subject matter. Black HIV in the South, it is an epidemic that we are experiencing in the Black South. And I learned a lot producing that project. I learned from the experts. We have some of the foremost experts in this fight for equality in the health justice arena, imparting knowledge and giving us the blueprint on what we need to do to try to rectify this ill. And I think that that is meaningful to me. And that's the kind of work that I always want to create and I always want to produce. As we were creating this project, I just kept telling Anna, I said, this project, it has the potential to save lives. It's entertaining in the sense that we're telling a story. And I think we do an amazing job of telling that story episode after episode. And so it's entertaining in that sense. But the content, it really is life altering content that's being shared. And if we could, through that work, save one life or help to heal one relationship, I feel like it has done its job. And so it's twofold for me why that project means so much to me. And I don't see that changing anytime soon.
That's awesome. And it says a lot about and why we even doing this, right? These 29 days of highlighting and doing more. At this point, it'll be 57 because of last year. But why I mention that is that this is why the listenership is so important for podcasting and the responsibility of us as podcasters and those of us in this industry to get more ears on this medium, because what's happening is this is unfiltered, actual factual experiences that provides information and news that you are just not going to get anywhere else, from the lips of anyone else, from the stories or the ideas of anyone else that is not us. But when you're able to tell our stories without any filters, it is our lived experience. And not only is our lived experience, but we're going on record with our lived experience.
Mm-hmm.
This is what is happening now, in this moment, at this time. And that makes it everything.
Yeah.
And so as we push these projects forward, it's not just about the entertainment. It's not just about podcasting. It's about getting the information out there that you would not otherwise get if not for the people who are picking up this mic and saying, this is my story, this is my experience for today and for 100 years from now when you pick this back up.
Yeah, absolutely. There is, to me and for me, there's a strong sense of responsibility to that. And I don't want to say obligation, because I feel like obligation makes it feel like you don't really want to do that shit. You know what I'm saying? But it's a sense of responsibility. I think it is a privilege to be in the position to tell our stories, to be someone that others want to hear stories from. You know what I'm saying? It is a privilege to be able to represent our stories in any way, shape, form, or fashion. And so I feel a strong sense of responsibility to that storytelling to make sure that it is intentional, that it is authentic, and that it serves a purpose, even if that purpose is pure joy and laughter, or if that purpose is education or whatever it might be. It's not something that I take lightly. And I hope that comes through in the work.
Absolutely. And just to seal that up, I want people to know the Stories All Around is still available. It's on the
Yes.
Vanguard Podcast Network site, vanguardpn.com, and on wherever you can listen to podcasts. And
Yes.
it's a great series with a lot of amazing stories. And yeah, Latrice did that. So that's dope. All right. So the most rewarding aspect of your work is witnessing the creation of meaningful connections. Can you describe a specific instance where you saw the power of these connections come to life?
Yes. So again, just going back to Afros and Audio, when we were, I think it was the second virtual year, so 2021, we were having the Friday night kickback, right? We was doing the virtual kickback. And I got a private message on the Zoom from Nicole Walker, and she said, "You from New Orleans?" I said, "Yes, I am from New Orleans." And she was like, "I could tell from your I do a very good Nicole Walker impression, you guys. I've been working on it for some time now." She said, "Oh, I could tell from your accent." She was like, "My daughter go to school down there." And that was the start of a very meaningful, beautiful relationship between Nicole and I. And the reason that I highlight that, because I've made so many, me personally, right? I always use my own personal connections and relationships when I talk about the ability to make connections and relationships, because I'm telling you what I know. I'm not telling you what I think. I'm telling you what I have experienced. You know what I'm saying? Through that event, right? Nicole came into my world, and she has really provided me with a type of relationship that I was lacking in my life, and did not realize that I was lacking that until it showed up and I had it, and I was like, well, why I didn't have that before? You know what I'm saying? And that's a for life relationship at this point. And it's not just Nicole, it's Anna. I met Anna through Afros and Audio. Lisa Wolfork, I met Lisa through Afros and Audio. And even me working with Lisa was as a result of the work that I did with Afros and Audio, made her want to reach out and ask me to work with her. So Lisa was the first client that I worked with. So Danielle, Twyla, TK, just my entire community, and like people that I have genuine relationships with, that support me, that love on me, that encourage me, that connect me. All of that really kind of stemmed from my work with Afros and Audio, and being in that space and being a part of creating that space. And so I'm not telling you what I think, like I'm telling you what I know, because this has been my personal experience, and it continues to be my personal experience, you know? So those events, I tell people all the time, don't sleep on the power of going to those kind of like industry events, because these are people that understand you differently than everyone else in your life. I never had creative friends like that. I had a friend that was a dancer, but I never had like to, I'm not a dancer. I don't have knees like Megan. So we couldn't connect on that. We connected in other ways. So here I have now a community of people who are creative in the same way that I'm creative. I never experienced that before. And so they know me and they understand me unlike anyone else in my life. And it's been a very powerful experience. And so I always enjoy being able to create those kind of experiences for other people in the hopes that at the very least, they're going to have a good time. But at the very best, they might be able to make some meaningful, life changing connections.
Where you said it, and it makes my heart truly full to one, know that you didn't have to tell me that, right? Because we're in each other's lives for me to already know that. But it's one of those things where, again, that intention, when I sat down and I thought about this conference, I always thought about the day after the conference. How do we stay in relationship? How do we stay in community? Because that's what fuels us. We can get the education, we can share our experiences, we can do all of that, but it's the relationship building that is what saves our lives. So we're people who happen to be podcasters. That is our commonality. But we're people first, we're human beings first. We're all having this social and human experience, and we need people. And to create that intention that has come full circle in a lot of ways for a lot of people, not just you, where there are lasting friendships because we are a space that is intentional about win-wins. We are a space that are intentional about no bigotry and no exclusivity and being selective around the people that you're in community with. These are all people who know why they're coming to the conference and know what they're going to experience. And we want more of that for more people. And so when people aren't at the conference, it's not a failure on me or failure of the conference. It's more so that I am really saddened for folks who have not yet been able to experience what is actually created in Afros and Audio, because us as creators in this world, as professionals, in this world don't love us. So to be able to come into a space where you are seen and honored and respected, it's everything. It changes the game for a lot of people.
It
So,
does.
so thank you for sharing that. And I love all those folks that you talked about, and I love you. So it makes me happy to know that this is the experiences, right? It really,
Yeah.
really, really does. All right, so I'm
Absolutely.
gonna close this up. We've been talking for a while, and we could do this like literally. This could be 3 hours long.
It would. It would.
But I'm not gonna do that to the people, right? So I want to ask one last question. I have others, but I'm gonna wrap this up. We have given ourselves to this conversation, and I appreciate it. So I just want you to take a moment to talk to those aspiring podcasters and audio professionals. What would be your top recommendation for someone looking to break into the industry and make a lasting impact?
I talked about it a little bit earlier, but I think it's just being as authentic as you can at every step of the process. And I think one of the things we want to keep in mind is that there's a difference between keeping it real and keeping it authentic. Authenticity is about being true to who you are. It's about being true to what it is you want, what it is you need, what it is you hope to accomplish. It's about being real with yourself above being real with anybody else. And I think that for a lot of us, when we get into podcasting, we feel like we have to fit a certain mold, that in order to get on such and such level, we got to do it the way so and so did it. And the reality is that so and so got there because they brought something to the table that was unique to them. We don't need another them, right? We need you. And so I think that authenticity is really the biggest piece of advice that I can give, especially as you're working to build relationships and looking to kind of build and expand yourself within the industry. I've been lucky enough and blessed enough to kind of build a little bit of a following within the community. And I'm constantly thinking to myself, how the fuck did I do that? Because I barely post on social media. And when I do post, it's short and to the point. And people will have you to believe that in order to build a community, you have to be posting 5 and 6 times a day. And I don't do that. But every time I show up in a space, people are happy to see me and people are excited to meet me and to be in my space and to share community with me. And I think it's because I show up as me every single time. If I'm not going to do nothing else, I'm going to be authentic. And I'm also authentically me in my production process as well. It has been quite the journey learning how to trust my instincts and learning how to kind of say, like, this is what I hear, this is what I need to hear. And I'm not letting go of that until it gets to where I need it to be, because that's what I need it to be. Like just being true to myself and authentic in that way. But, it's a journey and I'm getting there. So I would just say in embracing that journey of authenticity at every single level and crafting something, a career or a legacy that you can be proud of, regardless of what anybody else has to say about it. Because at the end of the day, you're the only one that has to be proud of what it is that you create in the world. And I don't know about you, but I want to be able to look back and I want to be able to say I did that shit my way. And I'm proud of every single thing that I've done. And so far, I'm thankful that I have been able to say that.
Yeah, that's great. Hashtag same.
Yeah.
I agree with you 100%. So, as we wrap this up, I want you to do two things. I want you to make sure you tell people how they can work with you, promote whatever project, any future plans that you want to do in this moment, and then let the people know how they can find you.
So you can find me on Instagram at Latrice Sampson Richards. I also have a TikTok at Rich by Marriage. I'm working on getting my whole social media life together. It's coming a little bit at a time. Very soon, I'll be releasing some content through the Black Pod newsletter, through Black Podcasters Association. I'm very excited about that. A little behind on that, but I'm very excited about that. And you can always go to my website, latricesampsonrichards.com. It's in process right now. We're kind of changing some things over, making sure that we include Pod Melanin. I told y'all I had to change the name 4 times now. So this is the final version of this. So now I'm in the process of making those updates, but you can still reach me there. The website is fully active and you can get the information that you need. If you're looking to create a live event or a live show for your podcast, for your community, shoot me an email, support at latricesampsonrichards.com. And we're going to make it do what it do. No event is too big or too small, and you always have options. And so whatever your budget is, you just come with that budget and we figure out how to make it happen. So if you're ready to get out there and start meeting and greeting, holla at your girl.
All right. Well, thank you. It's been great to, as we talked about at the top of this, to have a conversation. We talk on the phone behind the scenes. That ain't nobody's business.
Right.
But on this, it's great to be audience facing again and letting people know that we still very much love and respect one another. And I'm very happy to be in community with you and to have this conversation with you and get to know what you are up to now, because it's a lot of great and dope things. And I'm super proud of you. So,
Thank you.
yeah,
Thank you. Thank you. I'm
absolutely.
proud of you as well. You just keep doing more shit. You know what I'm saying? And it's a beautiful thing. And I'm very proud of you as well. And with the book and just everything, it has been a blessing to have been a part of the Afros and Audio team for the time that I was a part of the team. And it is a blessing still to be a part of the community. And I'm always going to be a part of the community. Y'all ain't never going to get rid of me. So that's just deal with it.
That's fine with me. So I appreciate you. I'm going to close this out, all right? I want to give a big thanks to our Afros and Audio and Black Podcasters Association members for supporting our commitment for community and collaboration. If you'd like to join the Black Podcasters Association, the link will be in the description. And if you want to join us at the 6th Annual Afros and Audio Podcast Festival, visit afrosandaudio.com. Follow at Afros and Audio on all social media channels, and you can find and follow me at Talib Jasir on Instagram. Thanks again, Latrice, for being a part of Afros and Audio's Black History Month interview series.
Thank you.